Ladies and gentlemen, in addition to an economic catastrophe that we're witnessing, recession, GDP, 2 negative quarters of contracting GDP, and they say, well, it's a technical recession. It's not really a recession. The labor market is strong. Well, the labor market isn't really strong. The reason that we have low unemployment is because it took 2 years to get to the levels, around the levels, that President Trump had in 2019 and early 2020, before Democrats gleefully tanked the U.S. economy with the help of bureaucrats and media and experts. So within the span of 2 months, there were 22 million people unemployed, and now it's taken 2 years to get to a similar labor market, but you still have labor shortages in key industries, and you also have inflation at 9.1%. That's cutting into salaries. Real wages are down 4.4%, according to the Wall Street Journal. Oil is now back up. WTI is around $100 now, and Brent, the global benchmark for countries that buy from OPEC, is at 110. So inflation is not going to subside no matter how high they raise interest rates, because oil prices are going to continue to go up, because there's the supply is not going to be able to meet global demand even in a recession. Now, you have the Washington Examiner, Chinese state media warn fighter jets escorting Pelosi to Taiwan could be, let's just say, downed, God forbid. This is the Washington Examiner, so according, if it's, YouTube policies, if there's a human reviewer, this is all over the news. You could type in Pelosi and Taiwan, and you will see Fox News. You will see, there's the AP News, White House, no need for tensions if Pelosi visits Taiwan, which is kind of hilarious. The Hill, he's right. Trump slams Pelosi's planned Taiwan visit. She will only make it worse. What is the point of visiting that country when the United States doesn't formally recognize it and is against independence? So according to the State Department, U.S. foreign policy states categorically it's against complete independence from China, even though it's essentially its own country. And so you don't have many, this is foreign policy. Pelosi's planned Taiwan trip is dramatic but dangerous. What's the point? If, God forbid, they're invaded by China, which they've telegraphed exactly what they want to do, there is going to be either a blockade or invasion within the next couple of years or sooner. If we, let's say, defend or help Taiwan in the same manner that we've helped or defended a country being invaded right now under Biden's watch in Europe, I feel very bad for the people there in Taiwan, because Biden's administration has zero long-term strategy or vision. It's only these short-term tactics that make no sense. Like, for example, utilizing our mortal enemies after the May 5th, 2021 withdrawal date that was negotiated by Trump. So the Doha Agreement was an agreement that said we needed to be out of that country on May 1st, 2021. Mashed potato brain said, you know what? Trump negotiated it. Trump reversed failed U.S. foreign policy of 20 years. Trump negotiated a deal to bring Americans back home after 20 years of endless counterinsurgency conflicts in that country. But Biden and his administration, Blinken, said, we're going to utilize our mortal enemies and give them lists of Americans to help us. Those 13 Americans and over 100 Afghans should be alive today. You don't leave also hundreds of billions of dollars in armament and weaponry. There were stipulations within the Doha Agreement that Trump negotiated. I mean, the biggest issue was that Biden went past May 1st, 2021. But see, again, you have this situation. You can have a nuclear confrontation. So I'll be talking about this on August 1st. I'll have 4 segments on this channel, 4 segments on the nuclear confrontation channel, and the stock market crash channel every single day. we do not have the money anymore. We have a national debt surpassing GDP. We're in a recession. We are likely to have, almost certainly going to have 3 quarters of negative growth, possibly 4. Housing has tanked. Interest rates are going up while we're in a contracting GDP. And Biden is actually selling oil to China as they're now threatening Pelosi. Now, I don't agree with Pelosi on pretty much anything. But I don't want any harm to come to anyone, Democrat or Republican, by any adversary. And you can look at, they keep saying that Trump was controlled by the Kremlin. It's like, well, what political party had their platform align almost directly with China's platform? Why couldn't we find out the origins of you-know-what? Okay? Why were Democrats so reluctant? Actually, they were against finding out the origins, how it all started. Well, how does that correlate to the national interest of another country right now that we're facing in the South China Sea? So we have a constant naval confrontations there, and yet still mashed potato brains and Democrats are selling oil, strategic petroleum reserves, to our really the greatest geopolitical adversary we face. So I'm speaking in roundabout terms, but I have to. But here you have a huge issue. I'll read you. A Chinese state media warned that the presence of U.S. fighter jets accompanying Nancy Pelosi's transport to Taiwan could be considered an invasion. Now, this is the Global Times, and it's a propaganda newspaper that is run by the state there, similar to how the New York Times and the Washington Post is pretty much run by the Democratic Party. It's interesting, like, you'll get people who aren't really interested in politics. They're not really into it, so they'll think that the Washington Post and New York Times or MSNBC and CNN or the Atlantic or the New Yorker or Vanity Fair or Esquire or Rolling Stone or New York Magazine or BuzzFeed, they'll think that these are like objective publications and they're just against Trump and they're against Republicans because they're so objective. They see the world from the vantage point of good versus evil. And obviously, if they're all against Trump, then Trump must be bad. See, they don't realize that, like, in that country, that's a communist country, they have a state-run media. We have a political party-driven and run media. There's a reason when the Washington Post says something bad about Trump, Rolling Stone and Esquire will also say the same bad thing. Okay, this is not a coincidence, and it's very, very bizarre because you used to have a variety of voices in American politics. Christopher Hitchens used to write for Vanity Fair. Christopher Hitchens would be viewed, he was like one of the most amazing, charming, witty, intelligent, charismatic writers, thinkers, of this generation or of the past 30, 40 years, okay? He passed away years back, but he would be viewed today. You think Christopher Hitchens would go along with people being offended over everything, or a government agency deciding on what is misinformation? Are you kidding me? You think that he'd be okay with Hunter Biden or Joe trying to, shake hands with ghosts, or the Democratic Party in the manner that it is now? He might not be the biggest fan of Trump, but he would probably like Trump's foreign policy a lot more than Democrats now. And he would I certainly would agree with Jordan Peterson on a whole bunch of things, a lot more so than the average Democrat when it comes to social issues, political issues. But here, I'm kind of like, my point to you is she could very well lead. I'm hoping nothing like terrible takes place, but there could be a nuclear confrontation from this. What's the point? Can somebody tell me what's the point? She's planning a trip after the past 2 years adopting pretty much the policies that country has wanted globally and domestically. So now, what are you going to do? We have no money anymore. You're selling them strategic petroleum reserve. We have no money anymore to fund a protracted, prolonged global conflict. And so what's the point of visiting Taiwan? We're not going to send troops to defend that country. We're not going to send, if China invades Taiwan, it'll be the same thing as what's taking place in Europe now. We'll send armament and do nothing. And we can't, because China and Russia, these are nuclear countries. We can't risk the entire planet being annihilated. Anyway, there's no strategy. It's only a short-term tactic for literally no purpose other than to just create havoc. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe to this channel and two other channels as well. August 1st, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be doing 4 segments on each of the 3 channels. Please go ahead and subscribe to all of them. Thank you.